Last time Boston College played in Blacksburg on a Thursday night, they had a little magic. Will they get it again? We'll talk about it.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I am your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get yourself started. This is our usual Friday show, but because BC's playing on a Thursday night, we pushed it up to a Wednesday. We're in our, just like Bill O'Brien has to be a little bit flexible with the way they schedule things out, we got to do the same thing. And of course, to do our preview and prediction of Thursday's game, we have Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider with us. Mitch, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm excited to break down this game. I think this is going to be a big measuring stick for what to expect from BC in the second half of the season. Obviously, it's kind of a historic rivalry, throwing it back to the Big East days. So I think this game will be more interesting than the last few times that BC has gone to Blacksburg. I will say that.
Now, on Eagle Insider, you did a great breakdown of this game, and go check out the matchup report if you haven't checked it out already. But I want to talk a little bit about how these two teams match up. You know, BC is 4-2, the Hokies are 3-3. What are you seeing from, you know, the way these two teams are looking and how this matchup might go?
So on offense for Virginia Tech, it's almost the exact same thing as last year. Like, it's almost all the same personnel. The one, I forget their tight end's name, but he transferred to Ole Miss. But the other tight end they use a lot, so it's not a huge loss. I mean, like, almost everybody's back. The offensive line had a little bit of positional shuffling, but it's all the same people, all very experienced. In the offensive scheme, it's a ton of short passes. Let me see if I can grab the numbers really quick. So they are 100. Oh, sorry. Where'd it go? Here it is. They are 13th in percentage of passes at or behind line of scrimmage at 34.8%, and 50% of their throws are 5 yards or less downfield, the 17th highest rate in the FBS. So a lot of like quick screens, roll Chiron Drones out, get the ball out of his hands quickly, or give him the opportunity to run. And then kind of as they'll do that for like 3 quarters, and then they'll start trying to chuck some deep shots, and they'll have those sprinkled in there, but they're usually not going to try them until they've kind of pulled the defense up to watch everything. And with a dynamic running game of Chiron Drones and Bayshal Tootin, who's a very good running back, especially explosive on the outside, you're going to eventually draw the defense up to defend that. And then the deeper routes will come open later in the game. On defense for them, it's a little different than what you kind of expect from Virginia Tech schematic wise. Not as much. They're doing more man, they're blitzing more. They've got probably because they have a great pair of corners in Mansour Delane and Dorian Strong. Dorian Strong's been around for like 6-7 years, and he picked off Thomas Castellanos twice last year. Very good player. And their defensive line is excellent, especially as pass rushers. Antoine Powell-Ryland, defensive end, who's awesome, and Aeneas Peebles is a transfer from Duke, who's a good player. So those two duos are the big ones, and they're interesting because they're more aggressive with the blitz, like I said, and I got to find the number. Last I checked, they were second in pressure rate at, let me see, 40. Where'd it go? Sorry, there it is. 44.4% of opponent dropbacks. They are getting pressure, and they have the second highest sack rate in the FBS at 12%. And they blitz on 35% of opponents' dropbacks. So it's high, but not like insanely high like some other teams, but they're very good at it. So they want to be aggressive, get you into long and late downs, and then create splash plays on defense that way.
Now let's talk about the offense. You brought up an interesting point about the short passes. BC last year, I could see why that would kill them because they just couldn't tackle. They were sloppy. But this year, it seems like, as we've talked about before, that they're better at tackling. Is there a chance that their defense will be more ready to play against Virginia Tech this year than they did last year? Or do you think that's going to
I definitely think so. And I think the one thing is that, again, we're probably going to see it. Well, not as bad as last year, but we're going to see an undermanned secondary. BC is going to be missing their number one corner. Last year's Elijah Jones. This year it's Amari Jackson. So you're bumping everybody up in matchups. So now Max Tucker has to take the number one receiver. Ashton McShane probably has to take the number two. So that's, a little scary. Ashton McShane's been okay. So, be interesting to see what he does in this game. But I think that you'll see BC, I hope at least, that they play this one a little differently because if I'm them, I want to make Chiron Drones test them downfield early because he is pretty scattershot when throwing more than 20 yards downfield, and he doesn't throw over the middle in like the intermediate area that much. So if I'm BC, I'm going to sit on those short routes aggressively from the beginning. Obviously being better at tackling is a huge thing. And to Jones' credit, he did beat them deep a few times too last year. It was just a nightmare for BC across the board. So I think you want to come up, play the short routes first. So you take those away quickly. And ostensibly, then you want Drones to have to stay, hold on to the ball. You give the pass rush more time to get there. And so then you can create some splash plays that way, or you just force Drones to throw it away. The other thing that's interesting about Virginia Tech on this side of the ball is that their offensive line, even though they're all very experienced, they are not very good at pass blocking. So they rank 128th in pressure rate at 41.9% of dropbacks and 98th in sack rate allowed at 7.5%. Here's the crazy one. They allow pressure when opponents blitz, which is with 5 or more players rush the quarterback. They allow pressure on 70% of their dropbacks, which is the next closest team in the FBS is 11.5% lower than them. So when they get blitzed, they have no idea what to do. And that could be because they're probably just not keeping as many players in protection. So BC is not blitzed that much. And typically you don't want to blitz a running quarterback like Drones, but I think you should be aggressive early and try to get in there. Again, make sure everybody's covered with the short routes, but try to get in there, try to get some sacks early to get them playing from behind where Drones does have to beat you more with his arm.
Now, offensively, I was looking up earlier and I posted on Eagle Insider that Virginia Tech is, I think they're 100th in the league in rushing defense. What do you think BC's offensive attack plan should be for this game?
I think that for this game, especially because it's in Blacksburg, you need to get the run game going, and especially up the middle. And I think that, like you said, that they can be had a bit with the run because while their defensive line is good, they are much better pass rushers than they are run blockers. Like you said, they are 99th, at least my stats, is 170.8 rushing yards per game allowed. They are 115th in yards after contact per rush. So that at 3.5. So that's good. BC can make some plays after once they get into the second level, they can make some plays. They're allowing a rushing success rate of 56.2%. So that's not very good. So they're kind of a high variance defense in terms of run defense. I would say like they get in the backfield a decent bit, but then they also allow some explosive runs. So you need to get the run game going because that will take some of this pressure off of Thomas Castellanos' plate. It'll also ostensibly quiet the Virginia Tech crowd down if you just have some sustained drives where you run the ball well, stay ahead of the chains. Because if you get into long and late downs, Virginia's going to blitz, and they're going to blitz. They're really good at it. They're really going to getting pressure, and you're going to have the crowd really into it. So you want to avoid those situations at all costs. So, like I said in our preview piece, I think running the game is paramount here. I think that BC should be able to do that with some efficiency, especially if they do more of what they were doing against Florida State. Look at how Vandy ran all over Virginia Tech in week 1. Now, basically, they were running basically a triple option offense, and I'm sure Bill O'Brien's not really going to do that. But there are elements of that you can take, use Thomas Castellanos more as a runner to open things up and allow you to attack this defense on the ground.
Yeah, I said that earlier in the post too. Like as you mentioned, the Florida State game plan seems like the perfect opportunity for them to kind of replicate what they did there and try to keep Chiron Drones off the field and use that running attack more religiously and rely more heavily on it. Like almost go back to what you were doing in years past in that game, so that you're taking long drives, not letting him get in rhythm, and hopefully shrink the amount of possessions that Virginia Tech can have.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another big one too, is like just limiting their possessions. Ideally you can steal one with a turnover or something. So yeah, that's a huge thing. And I think that the bye week, we talked about this a little bit on a few different episodes, but I think you're going to see it's funny. We talked about the offense kind of opening up once they got an AC play. I almost think you're going to see it contract a little bit. Like they're not going to see it as much. They're trying to do all these things. Maybe let's trim it down a bit. Let's do what we're good at. Let's not worry about it. And I think that after they showed the offensive line how they've been playing last few weeks, I think maybe they'll be kind of motivated to come out and reassert their dominance in this game.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment. I want to get Mitch's thoughts on what BC has to do to win this game and maybe some names to watch for, like who's going to have to really step up to win in this one. All right. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to a doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through HIMS, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedoncollege. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personal ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedoncollege. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved by a verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with the healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black, joined again by Mitchell Wolf. This is our preview episode. I will have our game recap episode on the Locked On Boston postcast page, which if you look it up, you can find it. Just look for one of my other postcasts. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell to know when I go live. I'm going to try to go to the press conference, and then I will go live right after that. All right, Mitch. So we kind of talked a little bit about what Boston College has to do to win this game. Let's talk specifically what Thomas Castellanos has to do to win this game. What are you going to be looking for from him if the BC is going to pull a win against Virginia Tech in Blacksburg on a Thursday night, which is not an easy thing to do?
No, last I checked, BC hadn't won in Blacksburg since 2018. They do not have a very good record when playing there, I think, especially at night. Obviously, there's the legendary game in 07, but other than that, it's been a bit of a house of horrors, especially recently. So for Castellanos, and this target kind of goes for everybody, but he's obviously going to be the one that's it's most important for. I think he can afford one turnover. I don't think he can afford more than that. I think you can afford one, interception or fumble or whatever. If you do more than that, then I think it's really going to start compounding and things are going to get bad. So I think he needs to take care of the football. And for the most part, he's done, I think, an okay job of that, especially against power opponents. There's been sometimes where like you said, he's got greedy. Some other times where he's just gotten unlucky. So I think he's got to do a better job of that. I think that for him, he's, we've talked about this ad nauseum, like he's got to use his legs more. It's a tough thing for what he's being asked to do because like we talked about in the offseason, like the whole point of Bill O'Brien and all this was to develop him as a pocket passer, develop him into more of a real quarterback, which he is trying to do, which that means not making one read and then running, which is basically what he did last year. So you want to see him become that more of a real quarterback. The problem is to this point, now it's starting to affect his ability to run. And I think he's probably like he's just thinking too much. Like he's trying to read out and he's like, can't run. I got to make the throw. And, there were times in the Virginia game where if he had just run, he might've gotten the first down. So hopefully, they've kind of said, hey, it's okay if you can run a little earlier because, we need to keep the offense going. So I'm hoping that he can scramble a little more, have a few more designed runs. And then obviously, that should ideally force the defense to respect his ability to get to the edge, use his speed, and then you can start pounding him up the middle with guys like Robichaux and Richard.
Who do you think will be like the X factor in this game for BC? Like, obviously Castellanos is going to be super important and Donovan Azarak, who's going to be a name everyone's going to be watching for. But if you were to look at one of the other players, one of the other 20, starters or even the special teams, who would be someone you would look for? Like if this guy has a big game, BC's going to be in good shape.
Somewhere probably between Lewis Bond and Trayshawn Ward, which isn't a very unique answer, but I think that getting the ball to those guys quickly, especially when Virginia Tech blitzes, is going to be huge because if they blitz a lot, they're going to leave. They're probably not going to leave Lewis Bond open, but sometimes they might not cover the running back. You saw that play. It wasn't Castellanos, but against Western Kentucky where they blitzed everybody and Ward just leaked down the wheel route and they hit him for a big gain. Those kind of players can be huge. You're going to get an ability to create yards after the catch. Ostensibly, Bond could be lined up against Virginia Tech Star, which is their nickel defender, who's a linebacker safety hybrid. So you put a guy like Lewis Bond on there, who's a better athlete in space, who's really good at run after catch opportunities. That's something. So it's like, how much can Bond create after the catch? If he can turn a 5-yard gain into a 12-yard gain, and so on and so forth, that's huge. I think, with Ward, with how Virginia Tech plays defense, I think they're going to be a little more spread out. So there's a little more room for him to create. Even though he was good against a team like Michigan State, they were really crowding the box, and Virginia was too to an extent. So you're going to see a more spread out defense that he should be able to take advantage of, and be useful in both the running and the passing game. And also, even though they usually use Kai Robichaux as the pass blocking back, Ward, he's not as good of a physical blocker, but he is very good at knowing who needs to be blocked and where he needs to go to get there. So that's also a valuable aspect of his game.
All right, let's flip the coin here a little bit. We're talking positive here because it's a BC podcast. It's what we do sometimes. What's your biggest concern about BC heading into this game?
It's Ashton McShane. It's pretty Ashton McShane and Max Tucker. And for them, luckily, I would say that of the two outside receivers that Virginia Tech has in Stephen Gosnell and DeQuan Felton, they're okay. They're not game breakers. They're not Luther Burden by any means. They're not Malachi Fields. So that's better, but they're still solid players. They're still ACC level players. So that's a little concerning for me, and then their best receiver, Jalen Lane, who killed BC a lot last year. Kari Johnson has been playing really well in the nickel. So you hope that is a matchup that Johnson can win most of the time. The other one, and like I said, this is not as much of a concern. It's just like a question, is the pass rush, because like I said, Virginia Tech is very bad at pass blocking, but BC's pass rush is pretty inconsistent. Even when they blitz, they're not getting a lot of pressure. So, are we going to see some different blitz looks from Tim Lewis? Did they use the bye week to come up with some new stuff that offenses haven't seen, haven't been able to scheme up to be able to stop? Because obviously Donovan Ezeraku is going to be the guy. Can you move him around to open up opportunities for the other defensive linemen? And then I think that, I might be, jumping on your question here, but I think the quote unquote, unsung hero or, unsung X factor basically on defense is going to be the linebackers, because I think that they are going to be instrumental in making sure that Bayshell Tootin doesn't get to the outside and get around the edge for a big gain. Tackling him in space is huge. And also one of those two needs to be focused on spying Chiron Drones, so he'd make sure he doesn't scramble, because he did kill BC as a runner last year. I feel like he hasn't had as many big runs this year when I watched the film, but obviously we know that he can still be a threat to do that.
All right. In just a moment, we're going to wrap things up by giving our preview and predictions, but we got a little bit of talk about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Now, you can do the NFL. I love doing NFL bets on FanDuel, but there's college on there too. And we, on our Friday shows, love to use this FanDuel segment to do some of our picks. Mitch and I have not kept track of our picks, but they haven't been very good. We're struggling.
We're regressing. Well, I'm regressing from last year, but all right. So
I'm staying nice level with where
you're still probably
I'm consistent.
You're 35%.
Exactly.
All right. So first game will start off on Friday night. We're going to stick in the ACC for the most part this week. So we got Florida State at Duke. Duke is minus 3.5 point favorites at home. I'm going to be honest. I have not gotten to watch, I think, a single snap of Duke this year. But I'm going to go with them. I think that they're a little bit, they're 5-1. I think they've gotten lucky here and there, but from what I've seen from just the results, but I just know that this Florida State team is really bad. I think this will be a big opportunity for this coaching staff for Duke to, get their first win against Florida State in a series. I heard a stat today that Florida State is 20-0 against Duke. So I think they finally break that streak and even I think they'll still cover that minus 3.5.
All right, I'm going to go with Florida State on this one. DJU's out, which is actually a good thing for them. I don't know if it's Brock Glenn or Luke.
Croman-Hoke.
Yeah, one of those guys is going to start. I thought Brock Glenn looked okay against Clemson at times. Florida State, the issues that they've had, were still biting them in the butt as wide receivers were just dropping everything thrown at them, which didn't help, but he was still hitting them. So I'm going to say that maybe they figure something out here. I don't know what Duke is either. I'm going to go with Florida State. All right, next. All right, I'll go next game here. Let's go Miami. So it's a noon game. Miami and Louisville, 4.5 for Miami.
Well, yeah. So Miami is 4.5 point. Yeah, favorite. Sorry,
favorite. Sorry.
I was, and it's at Louisville. I'm starting to watch Louisville in preparation for next week, so I feel like I've gotten a good handle on them. I will say Louisville has an awesome running back. I was telling you about him earlier today.
Yep.
Isaac Brown, he's a true freshman. He's awesome. That said, I do think Miami wins this game. I think that Miami is much better across the board. I think Louisville has been a little inconsistent. They've been lucky with some explosives, but on both sides of the ball, it's just been kind of like it hasn't clicked yet. And they had a very early bias. They haven't had time to kind of recover. They're coming off that close game at Virginia, so they're kind of riding this roller coaster. So I'm going to go with Miami. I think that they get it done and win by at least a touchdown.
I'm going to go the same thing here. I think a lot of folks are waiting for Miami to fall apart. I think they're better than that this year. I think right now we're more likely to see them start to figure more things out to make them more fine-tuned to win by bigger points, as they've been kind of sloppy in some of these games.
I think this is too obvious of a letdown spot for Miami. It's going to be more soul crushing. It's going to be like, because Louisville, they'll be like, if they lost, like, hey, it's on the road. Louisville's a pretty good team. That's not anything to, necessarily be ashamed about. It's going to be much, much worse somehow.
Yep. All right, so we're both on Miami on that one. All right, let's we'll do the national one and then our joke one at the end.
Okay. All right. So we'll do Georgia, Texas. Obviously, game is in Austin. Texas is where'd it go? Texas is -4.5 at home. 4.5 is a really interesting number. I'm going to go Georgia covers here. I don't know, but I think that because it's 4.5, that gives you 4 and 3, which are good numbers to have. I think that this game will be close, but I think Texas will definitely be the better team.
All right, it's at Texas. Georgia has not impressed me a lot, really, other than their game against Clemson, and coming back against Bama, I guess. But they came out real slow in that one. You can't do that again on the road. I think Texas is, I know they started slow in the Red River rivalry, but it's a Red River rivalry that happened. Weird stuff happens all the time. I'm going to say that they're going to come out and they're going to win by 10. I'm going to go with Texas in that one.
All right. Let's wrap it up with our fun one, a bonus fourth one. 2 programs that we have fun relationships with. Wake Forest at UConn. UConn is -1.5 point favorites. I'm taking the Demon Deacons here. I think they probably win this game. I know UConn has beaten some absolute powerhouses this season, and looking at the rest of their schedule, it's a very, very tough schedule. So I think they could be looking ahead to some of those very difficult teams that they're going to play, and Wake Forest takes them out.
I don't know why I'm going to pick UConn.
Oh my God! It's a good number.
It's going to be like the Super Bowl, I would assume, right? Like they're you got an ACC power coming, Wake Forest coming to you. They're going to get sloppy. I could see UConn's defense making some plays against a sloppy Wake Forest offense at home in front of a crowd that's going to really hope for a win. And
I'll say this: Hank Bachmeier has not been the problem. He has been as decent as you could expect. He's been fine. Yeah.
But I could see UConn, again, we were talking about BC and Virginia Tech trying to drag it out.
Mm-hmm.
UConn just running and trying to just not let Hank Bachmeier do anything. So I'm going to go with UConn on this one and hate myself doing it. All right. That's it for our little Mitch and AJ's pick of the weeks. You can also go to FanDuel, get that $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. Thank you all for listening, and make sure you check out Locked On ACC whenever you get a moment. They're talking about everything ACC, and sometimes they even do bring up Boston College. Check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. I'm going to get myself fired. I'm just kidding. Anyways, they do a good job. Not a ton of BC's talking there, but they do talk about ACC stuff, and if you like it, go check it out. All right. Let's talk about our predictions for this game. Both of us have varying degrees of this. Mitch, I'm going to let you lead off today.
I'm going to stick with the one that I wrote. I'm going to go with Virginia Tech 27, BC 21. We talked about all the things BC needs to do to win, and ultimately I just don't think that they're going to be able to do all of those. Whether it's the running game, whether it's Castellanos, whether it's Ashton McShane, I think there's just too many problems right now. Virginia Tech has been a bit of a weird team. I think they have kind of, they lost to Miami, but they were playing pretty well in that game. go on the road to Stanford, handle business, no problem, no letdown, which is good to see. They're coming back home. Obviously, this is one of the better home field advantages in college football. I think that they win this one. I think BC, I think it'll be interesting. I think, it's going to be a one score game for the majority of this game. I don't really foresee a blowout. But I think that BC just still has too many flaws for me to feel confident about them coming away with a win here.
All right, guys. And I'm going to go, you're going to hate me for this one. I got Virginia Tech covering very easily in this one. I think two things are going to happen that are going to cause issues in this game. I don't have faith right now that BC's offense can continue to drive the field consistently enough to score enough points to get it to beat Virginia Tech. I think they might get into some drives where they're running and then something stupid's going to happen where like Castellanos gets sacked or they get behind the sticks and then they can't do it. I feel like that the dysfunction on that kind of piece is going to keep coming up. And I think Virginia Tech's defense is too good that they're going to be able to cause some of those problems. So I think that's the first issue. And I don't have enough faith this defense is going to be able to hold down Virginia Tech. I think it's one of the better offenses that they played. They have 5 wide receivers that have 15 catches or more. Chiron Drones was a nightmare last year, and this is the same roster. And I know the coaching staff is very different, but I don't know if they're going to be able to stop him enough to win this. I have BC losing 31-14.
Yeesh.
Yep.
It's up to 7.5.
AJ, boo.
It's up to 7.5 now, by the way. So it was 6.5, or actually, it opened at 7, went down to 6.5, and now back up to 7.5. I imagine 7.5 is due to Amari Jackson not playing. But yeah, I think we're of pretty much the same mind here that there's just too many question marks right now to feel very confident of BC coming away with this one.
And I don't think like some of the things I wrote this on the site earlier today. Like I feel like this team will be prepared enough like with like the noise. I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know like Rich was asking 8,000 questions about that. I'm like BC's fine. They played at Missouri. They played at Florida State. They know like noise. I know Virginia Tech's going to be more than that, but I feel like BC can handle it. And I just think that the other pieces, the offense, the defense, is going to be a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Anyways, that's my last thoughts. Mitch, where can people find your work?
You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolf, WOLFE on Twitter, and obviously check out our work on Eagle Insider. Everything's up for this week. Luckily, with an early game, we should get into some of the recap stuff earlier. Have that ready, as we'll have technically a long week, but it'll be a quick turnaround with Louisville coming up on a weekday next week.
Yep. And you can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. I have my 3 things I know about this game. I have some thoughts about that. We have basketball coverage. You heard my thoughts on the team yesterday, and I get even more down on this team every day I think about it. So take that for what it is. But hey, hockey's back. Hockey's playing this weekend. That's going to be fun. We'll talk more about that and everything else in between. Make sure you follow Locked On Boston Postcasts. We'll be going live tomorrow night or tonight after the game. And thank you all for listening to Locked On Boston College, your team every day.